Which NFL teams still have massive fantasy holes that need to be filled prior to the start of the season? What do we make of the new look, New Orleans running back situation in the Big Easy? And what can you do right now in your drafts, both dynasty and redraft, to make sure you are handling the best possible edges to give you the edge for the $1 million grand prizes in the FFPC at the end of the season? We've got a great show for you. Don O'Connell, the 19-time FFPC league champion, is going to join us tonight to talk more about draft strategy, what he thinks about Kenneth Walker, Tucker Kraft, and much more. We've got a great show for you. My name is Eric Balkman. Ferrell Elliott is here. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than these or lesser.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs, and thank you so much, Rob. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com, MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. If you are looking to connect with me on the X or social media, I am at Eric Balkman on the X. The show is at HSFF Hour on the X, and of course, FFPC on X as well. Check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. That is KFFSC.com. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to break down a lot of stuff. We're going to get into the Eagles pass catching situation, assuming A.J. Brown is not going to be a part of Philadelphia's plans for 2026. We will talk more about the missing receivers in Washington, Atlanta, and Miami, and who is going to fill those fantasy holes in your drafts this season. And then we will get a visit from the 19-time FFPC league champion, Don O'Connell, who is going to talk to us about the way he is planning on building his teams this year. We'll get into some Kyron Williams and Marvin Harrison discussion with him as well, and so much more. Before we get kicked off tonight, I want to let everybody know that the FFPC Big Gorilla is filling up right now. $350 entry fee, $1 million grand prize. The 7 Bananas promotion is going on right now. Every time you get a consecutive 7 pick in that FFPC Big Gorilla format, you are winning free FFPC teams. They start off with a $125 best ball team, best ball tournament team, and they go all the way up to a Jungle Safari for $50,000 worth if you get that 7 pick 5 times in a row. We almost had it last season. We're one team away from making it happen, but maybe we can make it happen this season. The early Rampage tournament is going on right now. If you're one of the first 200 leagues that are signed up for the Big Gorilla, you're automatically entered into that early Rampage tournament, and that is going to feature a $25,000 grand prize. So you're basically getting two tournaments for the price of 1 entry fee and eligible for 2 grand prizes. If you always wanted to play fantasy football at the high stakes level, but the entry fees were just too big or whatever, we have the Baby Gorilla this year. The Big Gorilla's little brother, the Baby Gorilla, featuring a $125 entry fee with a $100,000 grand prize. Of course, the best ball tournaments are off and running as well with us. The $125 entry features a $400,000 grand prize in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament. And it is up from $300,000 last year. We added another $100,000 on top of the grand prize this year. And then don't forget about the Superflex Best Ball Tournament, $35 to enter, $100,000 grand prize there. Dynasty and Empire startups going on right now, anywhere from $100 up to $5,000, a budget for all at myffpc.com. Sent out a mailer today to let you know that the FFPC Main Event early bird is on as well. Get your teams right now, because you will not only save $200 off your team, you'll save $600 off each additional team, and you'll be entered into the FFPC Pros versus Joes drawing. Everybody always asks me, Balky, how do I get into Pros versus Joes? Enter the main event by the May 31st early bird deadline, and you're automatically entered into that drawing for 7 2027 free FFPC main event teams. FFPC Chop Leagues going on right now as well. Guillotine style format, starting at $35 and going up from there at myffpc.com, myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live on this channel. I'll give you the update on the busy week we have on the FFPC family of podcasts coming up later on the show. Before we get to that, I have to bring in my co-host with the most. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. He runs the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Having a lot of fun drafting in that right now. Please welcome onto the program, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, good Wednesday evening to you.
Balky, good evening to you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a busy week, but busy is always good. Excited to chop it up with you tonight.
Okay.
What was the fallout from the NFL draft for you? This is I know everybody's kind of down on the class from a dynasty standpoint, but once again, an exciting pre, during, and post-draft sort of like results happening not only with the NFL, but for fantasy purposes as well.
Yeah, it is what it is. These players are going to show up and get a chance, and there perhaps more diamonds in the rough. I'm beginning to understand what some of the teams did from an overall perspective, could really give us some clues in how to draft available players in the dynasty and what to expect as we move closer into the preseason. And I've had some surprises as I've been drafting my dynasty teams. And, now a couple of them, I wish I could have start overs, Balky. I can tell you that. Some of the things I thought will stand strong, and I'll stand by them. But there's other players that I don't quite think I gave the proper consideration to.
I want to get into that. We'll get into that not only tonight, but we will also get into the extra reps show on Friday. We'll get into that as well with some rookies and so on and so forth. I want to kick things off tonight, Farrah, with you to talk about something you brought to my attention. I have a few teams I want to discuss here, but I think we'll lead off with Washington just because the free agency portion of the season is done. And I want to say like the first 3 or 4 waves. There's several waves that are going to go on as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL season. But the first few waves of free agency is done. The NFL draft is obviously done. The race to sign all these undrafted free agents is done. And yet some of these teams still have holes on them as far as what we care about for fantasy football. You brought up Washington. I think that's an excellent team because, Ferrell, I think that is the only team out of the 32 teams in the league that have holes not only at wide receiver, but running back as well. We'll talk with about Jaden Daniels this week on the family of podcasts, but I have to ask you here too. Washington cannot be done, right? I mean, they're going to add another receiver, right? Are they going to add another running back? I don't know. What's your vision of what's going on with Washington, and how do we handle players like Terry McLaurin, Antonio Williams, Rashad White, Katron Allen right now? All guys on the Commanders, but still all guys that could have their roles change fairly quickly in this offseason.
If you're a guy who loves to draft the guy, then Terry McLaurin is your guy this year. And when you look at that wide receiver room, it's loaded with a lot of names that fantasy players have drafted over the years and got very, very little back from. And it's hard to get a fantasy player excited about some of these guys. They're good football players, but as a group, they're lacking somewhat. And that lets me think, and this is one of those rookies that I was talking about in one of my dynasty drafts, Antonio Williams from Clemson goes in. He was the 9th wide receiver off the board. He went behind both Cleveland Brown wide receivers in one of the dynasty drafts, and I assume that he's doing that through most of the drafts. And I could have picked him in the second round, and I didn't. And when I look at it closer, man, I wish I did. Here's a guy that's 20 touchdowns in the last 21 touchdowns in his career, 15 of them in the last 2 years. He ran fantastic speed at the combine. He's not necessarily a little receiver. He's got some size to him. Yeah. I see him as an excellent slot receiver there in Washington. Now, when you go to the backfield, Balky, our guest last week,
Jake the Lake.
Jake was wonderful in his breakdown of Krosky Merritt. And I'm a big believer in Krosky Merritt. Bill Merritt is my guy, but you take a look at this, and it's a three-headed committee in that situation right now. And I don't know where a running back would come that would, is going to make any difference in that mix. Yeah, sure, this is the 49ers front office. There's 2 ex-49er receivers floating around. And you would think maybe one of them would be a landing spot there. And if that's the case, I would feel very, very well. I feel very, very positive about this receiver core, but it still doesn't change the fact that I think Williams could be one of the big rookie performers at wide receiver.
I'm in on Williams this year. My question for a lot of these receivers, and we'll get into this as it goes on, not only this week, Ferrell, but several weeks going forward, how we treat this year's rookie class, specifically at wide receiver, when we know next year's rookie class is really, really good. And you can extrapolate that, I guess, to talk about running backs for sure. Tight ends, I don't know. The tight end class next year, I know it's good. I don't know if it's that much better than this year. But certainly, we're very excited about these players now. How excited will we be next year? Maybe perhaps none more personifies that than the rookie receiver who could be the number 2 wideout in Atlanta this year, Zechariah Branch. Stays in the state of Georgia. He goes from being a Bulldog to a Falcon. And quite frankly, opposite Drake London, there's a lot of opportunity there. I have been, and I think I've been pretty explicit about it on this show, that I'm not a believer in Zechariah Branch. I'm still open to the idea of drafting him in dynasty rookie drafts because the FOMO aspect. If this guy does hit, I still want to have him on, 1 or 2 of my teams. But I look at Atlanta, Ferrell. Are they done? I mean, are they comfortable having Bijan Robinson in that backfield as their leading pass catcher, Drake London on the perimeter as their top wide receiver, Kyle Pitts as their number 1 tight end? Is there room for them to add another wideout, another pass catcher that perhaps takes the pressure off of Zechariah Branch, and Branch becomes more of a gadget guy, at least in 2026, and that there is another guy who could step in and play the Mooney role that was decent on this team until he got hurt? What do you make of Atlanta's wide receiver specific situation right now?
Well, I don't think you're wrong about Branch, but I think we're going to see a new Falcon look and a new scheme, and I think Branch fits it. So I think that as we imagine the Falcons in previous years, Branch wouldn't be – there's something about him you don't like, and it's kind of led me – I've kind of followed you down that road. What are some of the things that you just don't really like about him? You think he's too small?
The size is an issue for me, but a bigger issue for me is you look at what he did or what he didn't do in college. He could not. This is a guy that when he was back in at USC was playing behind these guys, and he had to transfer to become meaningful on the collegiate level. And then what did he do in Georgia? Well, a majority of his passes were caught behind the line of scrimmage. He had a serious ADOT where he wasn't earning targets. They were just scheming him up. And I know the speed and the route running to me is a problem too. I think he's got a ways to go on that. This is all to say, I don't disbelieve. I'm not an unbeliever in Zechariah Branch as far as what he's going to be at the next level. But I am severely concerned that this dude is going to hit the ground running, that he is going to be impactful in 2026. So if you are investing in a rookie draft in Zachariah Branch, maybe it turns out, but I don't think it turns out in 2026 and maybe not in 2027 as well. I just foresee a long learning curve, and the profile that we have of this type of player, it's not exactly been ripe with hits in the NFL. Now, I think FFPC players are pretty shrewd and they understand this, and they have been letting him slip down rookie drafts. I'll bring up the mojo on him shortly, Ferrell. So I'm not all the way out on Branch. I'm just finding better ways to spend second round and third round draft capital than a player like this in rookie drafts. But you tell me, I mean, what's your thoughts on Branch? I'm down on him, maybe wrongfully down on him.
Well, they're going to let him handle the return game, so that's a sign right there. That's a sign right there that he may not play that many downs. But that perhaps is their new scheme, to get this player the ball not far from or behind the goal line and see what he can, or the line of scrimmage, and see what he can get done with it. We're talking about a team. Now, I think Olamide Zaccheaus, is he still on this roster?
I believe he is. I believe he is.
And that would spell the situation. But I think I'm anxious for you to give Darren's mojo on this player, because I think at some point he begins to become a value. I agree with you. He doesn't belong in this group of top receivers, even with his SEC heritage. But I think once you dip into that third and fourth round, you're in good shape to take a shot at this player, especially when we consider that if you look at their depth chart, Jahan Dotson is on the other side of London right now.
Yeah, and but by the way, I totally forgot about this. Is mea culpa here. I totally forgot about Jahan Dotson on that team. So there is something to be said for that. Zachariah Branch, I'll bring this up right now, Ferrell, and if you are having an FFPC account, you probably should have an account with FantasyMojo.com as well. FantasyMojo.com, at FantasyMojo on the X. Darren Armani is the godfather of the Pros vs. Joes contest. Anytime we cite ADP on these broadcasts, on these streams with the FFPC, it's all due to Darren Armani. So if we look at rookie drafts right now, according to Fantasy Mojo, Zachariah Branch currently sits as a mid to late third round pick. He is sitting at 308. He has gone as high as the 107. God,
no.
Zachariah Branch. I don't believe in that at that point. But you're looking at him at the 308 on average. He's gone as late as the 603. For context sake, Ferrell, he is going behind Chris Brazel and Ted Hurst. He's going right ahead of Malachi Fields and Elijah Surratt. I do not have a problem with that, with Branch at that price in the mid-third round.
But we can talk about Malachi Fields another day. As far as production, just taking a production note for a moment, Balky, where over here we have FFPC. Use code YouTube25 for $25 off. That's kind of a generous thing for people that watch. If we could put another box, well, Joe King's in that box too. But it says 'tis the scene of. If we could just have Darren come in live on the show, because I've been watching a little UFL football, and when there's a controversial flag, they'll bring in the eye in the sky, so to speak. And we could have Darren just down there in a box, when we want to have the report of what the mojo is. And because he's got it all memorized anyway, he wouldn't have to look it up. And he just shouts it out to us, and we say, thank you, Darren. And then, he's always there in that little box.
He is. And we will have to get him back. Darren has not been on this show. He usually moonlights during the Pros vs. Joes challenge. Like, he'll come on and we'll do like a quick 10-minute interview with him. But we got to get him back on here coming up.
He's a pro apologist is what he is.
He's a pro apologist. He absolutely is. That'll probably be on X tomorrow when he sees this. Ferrell, we're going to get to our guest here tonight, Don O'Connell, in just less than a minute. I want to bring up Miami right now. We'll talk about Malik Willis throughout this. If we don't get to tonight, we'll get to it on Friday. Miami added Caleb Joseph. They added Kevin Coleman. They added Chris Bell. We talked about Chris Bell on this show last week, actually. I want to get your thoughts. Is Miami right for adding one of these veteran wide receivers that are still floating around out there in free agency? Or do you think they're going to go to battle with this trio of rookies, as well as Jalen Tolbert and Malik Washington?
Yes. Don't be surprised if they add a wide receiver. It's going to be a wide receiver that's going to have to be comfortable with his role of realizing he is on a run first team and run second team. We're going back. Old school Dolphin fans are going back to the Shula days. I mean, this is Kick and Zonka, and they found a reincarnation. If you're old enough to remember this one, it'd be very few listening to the show tonight. But they found a reincarnation in the draft when they took this kid out of Ohio State at tight end that caught 15 balls last year. Kaczmarek,
yeah.
And this player is a reincarnation of Mara Fleming from the Super. So this whole thing, and this is amazing to me, that last year Ollie Gordon, so this is a lot of Ollie Gordon talk. Where do you remember you were coming in on Ollie Gordon last year?
My whole thing with Ollie Gordon was I was a big Jalen Wright fan because of Mike McDaniel, where he prioritized speed over everything else. And now this year, Ferrell, I've kind of switched the flip, aka flip the switch, because I feel like the new regime coming in with John Eric Sullivan as the GM, with Jeff Hafley as the head coach, I feel like I would much rather own Ollie Gordon, who is the between the tackles banger, the guy that will accentuate your defense, heighten your running game. That is the player I would want as the backup to Achane, as opposed to Jalen Wright. So Jalen Wright for me, 2026, 100% Ollie Gordon.
And would that Ollie Gordon look at 150 carries on the season or maybe more? And I think he will in this offense. And Ollie Gordon is, he's available in a number of these dynasty drafts. And I apologize to everyone that's drafting best ball and it was naturally focused on the dynasty drafts here in the last few days. But let's take a look at this wide receiver core now. Chris Bell, everybody says it's Chris Bell. Well, yeah, Chris Bell is the guy. Who's he going to line up with? Terrence Marshall. And this time last year, I talked about how I never really bought into Tutu Atwell at the University of Louisville. And then he made the Rams, and I was happy for him. And then he caught 42 balls with not a lot of yardage, maybe something like we see Zach Branch come, a speedy guy that didn't get a lot of yardage. And then he goes, the Rams give him a contract, reward him with a contract of $11 million. And he caught 6 balls last year, Balky. That's $1.83 million a catch. Right. And the yardage was like $57,000 a yard. I mean, it's just it's crazy. So now, he's in Miami playing for $2 million or a little less this year, but kind of the league minimum. But my point is that these are the receivers that they're currently going to play with. And if this doesn't mean that you shouldn't be drafting the entire backfield of the Dolphins, as well as, I don't know what you're going to do with that quarterback, because, he makes
quarterback, Ferrell. I love that quarterback.
Well, he makes defenses guess, and that creates some interesting things, because with Tua, we knew what Tua was going to do, and this team, you take Hill and Waddle out of this team, guess what? It's a new day in Miami. And when this team goes on the road in the AFC East and goes and plays some of these cold weather teams, it's not going to be the same. It may not be the same result as what we're having. It's going for those Dolphin fans like Tom Smith, who's probably too hard at work tonight and might not get to watch the show until later. It's going to be a very satisfying year if you like hard-nosed offensive football. And that's what this team is built for.
Yeah, they are. And at least they're trying to get built for that. And I will say this, the last thing I want to say about Zechariah Branch, you bring up Tunga Bailoa. That is another feather in Branch's cap with him wanting Tagovailoa trying to get the ball out as soon as possible in Miami. I think that continues in Atlanta, and I think that helps Zechariah Branch as well. So that's another thing that's going for him.
Well, and in a tip of the hat to the Dizzle, what was Dizzle's favorite thing to talk about? It wasn't 40-yard dash, and it wasn't strength, relative athletic score.
Yeah.
And they do have, you might have to help me with the pronunciation, Sidhu Tiore, tight end out of Mississippi State, relative athletic score off the charts from down there in Miami.
Okay. This is wild. So this was an undrafted free agent?
Yes. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I thought he was a late round draft pick, but he could have been a UDFA.
Okay, so but he was for the Dolphins, right?
That's who I have him with.
Yeah, I know he was a 5th round pick, Ferrell. I'm seeing it right now.
There you go. That's what I was thinking.
I'm gonna say Seydou Traore. That's how I'm gonna
good enough.
All right.
I think you might take that. He's from London, so you might take that Ori out. Ore. Say the Ore,
Seydou Traore.
There you go.
Right in Mississippi State.
I say it with a British accent.
Yeah, I've got a 10.0 relative athletic score.
There you go, baby. There you go.
Not find a tight end more athletic than me in the National Football League. That's terrible, but
no, that was very good. People are going to
roll
like
with that tonight. For posterity's sake and for not losing the viewers, let's bring on a real genius of football. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, his name is Don O'Connell. He is a 19-time FFPC league champion. He's done it at all the levels. The satellite leagues, check. He's won league championships in the Big Gorilla. He's won multiple league titles at the main event level right now. And he's we're happy enough that he has set aside some time tonight for us to speak with him, to pick his brain on not only his success in the FFPC, but the upcoming 2026 season. Please welcome onto the program, Mr. Don O'Connell. Don, good evening.
Don.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Hey, I love this game. Thanks for inviting me to talk about this. This should be a lot of fun.
And what spaceship are you living in, Don? That spaceship chair. I love it. It's so great.
So you guys, we're just now trying to talk British. I lived there for almost a year. Here's how you do it. Pint of Ruttles. That's how you order a beer. It's pint of Ruttles. Try it. Pint of Ruttles.
Ruttles.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
We had a gentleman over from
East London or West London. I don't know which one it is. That's wild.
We had a gentleman from across the pond from that said he would go. We asked him what he would order at the bar, and he told us a cider.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year, and that was a lot of fun. What put you in London? Were you over there waiting for the NFL to come to you, or you get some good tickets?
No, work.
Yeah. My dad had an all expense paid trip there back in World War II. It was a good thing for him.
That was even harder work.
Yeah, that was really hard work. My both my grandfathers had the same thing.
There you go.
As well. Paul Brenton is who you're referring to, Ferrell, a guy that loves his cider, loves his fantasy.
I love Paul.
I don't know, he may or may not know you, Don, but I saw that he liked and reposted on X that you were going to be on the show tonight. So that was very cool of Paul. Okay, we're going to get into a lot here. Couple of questions to kick things off tonight before we get into fantasy football. Number one, how did you hit him today on the golf course? Did you hit him straight? How was the golfing today?
I was fine. I missed 4 easy birdie putts, so it could have been way better. So I got about my average.
I went disc golfing, frisbee disc golfing for the first time in 30 years a couple of days ago because my son's starting to get into it. He's 12 years old and he really wanted to go with me. First time in 30 years. And I got to tell you, like, I'm not a golfer, like a traditional golfer, and I'm not really a disc golfer. But let me tell you, the frustration of missing putts, whether you're traditional golfing or disc golfing, it is still the same in both.
Oh, yeah. And how's your arm? Your arm must be.
It was not good. It was like, this would have been on Monday. I went with him, and then Tuesday it was kind of sore, but my shoulder today, uber sore. I've been hitting it up with the Ben Gay and getting all that because it was not in a good way. But listen, nobody's tuning in to hear me talk about my sore shoulder. They want to know what you're doing, Don, when you are not winning all these FFPC leagues. Are you just golfing? Are you spending your time doing something else? What are you doing when you're not winning FFPC leagues?
Both my wife and I are retired for quite a while, for like 10 years right now. I was an engineer and a rocket scientist and that kind of a thing, working on all kinds of spaceships and airplanes and all kinds of things for my whole career. So now all I do is golf and bowl and play fantasy football and remodel houses.
Wow.
So that's what I spend my time doing. And every once in a while, I fool with new inventions. I'm kind of an inventor. I have a few inventions. So I fool with those things, although they don't really amount to much, except for keeping me entertained, which is good enough,
What's your proudest invention that you've had over the years, Don?
Oh, that's
So too many to count?
Yeah, well, I can't really tell you about my proudest, but the latest one is a way to go clean out my gutters while standing on the ground. Because she won't let me climb ladders anymore. So I clean out the gutters while standing on the ground. It works pretty good. 45 minutes, I do the whole house. So
good for you. That's fantastic. Good stuff. Well, congratulations on the retirement. Although it's not new, you've been retired for a while. But it sounds like you are busier in retirement than I have ever been in my working life.
That's really important. Yeah, you gotta get up every day and plan a thing, which is one thing. Fantasy football is so fun for me because I turn it all into a giant math problem. So I'm doing the math all through the season, doing the math, trying to figure out how to maximize my teams.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Ferrell, let's get into it with Don.
Well, and so I feel very, very impressed with myself that I identified your lounger as a spaceship, a rocket scientist that you are, and my goal in my entirety of my life is to hang out with people who are smarter than me. It's not very difficult to fulfill, but tonight with you and Balky, I'm certainly there. So my question. And when we talked about, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and before the show is over, we're going to point out to you that all Californians come to Kentucky to play fantasy football, and you're going to get an invite, Don, and I hope you'll come here. A player that played in University of Louisville is Tyler Shuck, and I am just thrilled with the assets that are being put behind him and in front of him there through the draft in New Orleans. I love the makeup of the team last year. I love what's going on with the team this year. You got a veteran running back that wants to stay there that appears like everybody has given up on. Your thoughts about this player and where can you see? Do you see him as a real bargain player right now? And do you think that he might be an everyday starter or every week starter in fantasy football this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't see it myself. I think that he's doing better than expected last year, and he's going to improve a little bit this year. I still don't see him cracking the top 15, so he doesn't make him a starter. He may be a Superflex guy that you would be good with. He could crawl into like the top 13 or something like that, given that they're giving more of a supporting cast and they don't have such a strong defense, so they got to pass it a lot, right? They got to lean on him a lot, so he could get to there. But I don't see him. I don't see myself drafting him because I don't take guys in that range. That's kind of where I see that.
And Don, that makes. By the way, I totally understand your viewpoint on that. But my follow up to that would be: is if you're down on Shuck, does that mean you're also down on guys like Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson, Jordan Tyson? Does that, if you're down on Shuck, are you also kind of out on the Saints offense in general?
No, not really. Because Olave is such a target hog. If I get him at the right price, I would always take him. Juwan Johnson he's hot and cold, but when he was hot, he was spectacular.
Yeah. He's a red zone. He's a fantastic in the red zone. What about the rookie receiver from out your way?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about him. I usually don't go with rookies so much because a lot of people like to really price them up because they think they're going to get the next Puka, and so they cost too much. So I typically don't end up with with rookies with any sort of hype about them because people hype them up way higher than they should be. So I usually don't take those risks. But Olave, I take Olave at the right price. He kind of went off last year. I think he might be too pricey this year too. But
we've always liked Olave on this show. You know, Balky, throw it up there. Derek Greer's checking in, and another Californian. He says, keep the scientists, Don, out of Kentucky. So you're already going to have to make a commitment during the show. Other Californians are trying to attempt to bar you from coming to Kentucky, and we just
you know what, we're going there next spring on the Giant motorhome trip. So I guess I'll change the license plate and
there you go.
In.
There you go. With Giant motorhome trip, you're always welcome.
Don, let me ask you this. We talked about Shuck. What about Jackson Dart? I mean, we saw a little bit of him last year. You saw a little bit of him last year. This year, he has a new head coach in John Harbaugh. Matt Nagy is the new offensive coordinator. Just as a normal reaction, I'm usually skeptical on players like this who have so much change going for them. And the other thing, too, is, we don't know the health exactly of Malik Neighbors. Isaiah Likely is coming to town. No Wan'Dale Robinson. So there is a lot of change going on with the Giants. Jackson Dart is being drafted on average as the 8th quarterback in Big Gorilla drafts so far this season. Do you feel with all this change in New York that he's still worth that price tag in drafts?
I do. I like the running style that he has now. Of course, it's risk because he runs so much he gets hurt, right? If you ever saw the interview with him and Gruden, right? Gruden kept telling him, stop doing this, because you're just going to get hurt. You're no good to me if you're in the medical tent, which is true. But I still think that I believe Malik Neighbors will be back, and Jackson Dart's kind of a ball hog kind of a guy where he'll just take it himself a lot, which is good for fantasy, but not so much good for his health. Yeah. And the good thing is with fantasy is that you can start him when he's healthy, and when he's out, you can start your other guy. So that makes him really valuable when he's there. And then when he's not, you're going to start your other guy instead. So I will probably have some of him this year. If he falls to the right spot, I'm going to have some of him just because I really like the running aspect of it and the way it adds to the bottom line for the player. Now, sure, there's a downside with Harbaugh moving there. They could limit him some, but that could go the other way too.
Mm-hmm. It certainly could. And to your point, Don, I will say this. For if you want to draft Jackson Dart, you're nervous about the injury, you're nervous about what could happen. Because of the depth of quarterback this year, it is fairly easy for you to draft Dart and then grab Prescott, grab Brock Purdy, who was the best fantasy quarterback down the stretch last season, grab Patrick Mahomes, who has won, I believe, 18 MVPs so far in his career. So you could get him. Stafford, Kyler Murray, who's on the upswing. We already talked about Tyler Shuck. I know you're down on him, but you could still get Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, who should be passing it more this year. I listed 7 quarterbacks there. So even if Dart doesn't work out, you could still miss on that ceiling, but still get a floor with some of these other guys here too.
Absolutely. Everything you just said, that's always how I do this game. Is I draft a guy somewhere between 8 and 12. I get 2 of them.
Yep.
Right. And then I can flip flop between them. Depending on what they're facing, because sometimes when they're facing a really tough team, you don't want to start them. So yeah, and those guys you just mentioned, I'll have a lot of them.
Don, we're making a $5 wager right now. We've got 5 on it. Balky can't find the music, but we're going to have 5 on it. I'm going to take Shuck, and you're going to take the Giants quarterback, and we are going to an FFPC scoring, the player that gets the most fantasy points for the season. Well, we got 5 on it, because if I lose 5, I've lost $5, and if I win, I can say, I beat the rocket scientist.
So is there any way I can enter in on this thing?
Yeah.
No, you're in it. I've already put
Okay.
you in it. I've
You're
already
in.
put
Okay.
you in it. You're in it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chuck versus Dart, the first one of its kind all season long.
Yeah.
Certainly a fun quarterback conversation. We can talk about tight ends here now too, Ferrell.
I love tight ends, and I love Tyler Warren. Now, last year it was better to start than it was to finish. 76 catches, only 4 touchdowns, put him in the range of Dalton Schultz, and Dalton Schultz has had a good year last year, but he's largely left behind in drafts. 10 targets once. That was the overtime game against Atlanta, and that was the last game that the Colts won last year. He had 9 targets about 4 or 5 times. 112 targets for the season, 76 catches. I think a better year is forthcoming. I think down the stretch he faded a bit, but the whole team faded. They lost everything down the stretch.
Phillip Rivers was the quarterback down the stretch.
Yeah, and God bless you, Phillip. So we gave it his fighting chance. So I expect a big year for Tyler Warren. Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I expect him to keep the magic of the front of the year going. They were hurt at the end, and Daniel Jones was hurt. Daniel Jones loves to throw to his tight ends, and he showed that. I really like tight ends that are in a place where the quarterback likes to dump it to them a lot.
Do you think we can get over 90 catches for Tyler Warren this year and push double-digit touchdowns?
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. He could easily be the number 3 guy for tight ends. And I don't expect him to be lower than number 6. So he's somewhere in there.
Yeah, he's going off in the FFPC Big Gorilla right now, Don. He's going off as tight end 4. So people are still believing in him. And like I mentioned, Rivers as well. He got off to such a great start. And then obviously in the money weeks, when a lot of people were hoping he'd come through, he really didn't. So we forget about how good he was last year. If we look back again, his rookie season in the NFL, 76 catches, over 800 yards, and just 4 touchdowns. I think those touchdowns positively regress this year, where he gets in the 6-7 range. And then he probably flirts with 900 yards. He probably, I don't know if he hits 90 catches, Ferrell. But,
yeah, 90.
But to Don's point, it would not surprise me if he hit 90 catches this year. No Michael Pittman in that offense. And
Michael Pittman.
So certainly this could be a big time Pierce Warren thing. And as much as, we compared Loveland and Warren last year so much because they were both rookies who got that top, first half of the first round draft capital. And then Warren looked like he was going to be the guy. And then Loveland came on at the end. And because we are prisoners of the moment, we understand recency bias, Loveland is in the forefront of our minds. And I say our minds because I'm including myself in that. I've drafted Colts and Loveland a lot this year. But we cannot forget about one Tyler Warren, who in his rookie year flirted with 80 catches, got over 800 yards, and 4 touchdowns as well. Pretty impressive stuff from Tyler Warren. Okay, let's move on and talk about another tight end. This guy is near and dear to my heart, Don. I'm in Northeast Wisconsin. I'm a Packers fan. I'm a season ticket holder. I love my Green Bay Packers. I love Tucker Kraft. He is coming off the ACL, so we don't know exactly how he's going to fare. If we look back, and I think this is, as much as people seem to be positive about Tucker Kraft, as much as people seem to be on board with Christian Watson this year, both of those guys did their damage last year for the Packers when the other one was hurt. Kraft was crushing it when Watson was still recovering from the ACL. Watson came on at the end of the season when Kraft suffered the ACL and he wasn't out there. These guys are going to have to coexist this year. However, they do have the added benefit, fantasy-wise, of not competing for targets with Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks, who are both on the East Coast now in Philadelphia and New England. This is a more concentrated pass offense, but specifically speaking to you about Tucker Kraft, how do you think he's going to fare this year in a different Packers passing offense than what was existing in 2025?
Yeah, he makes me nervous. I know that he's super talented, and I watched him do spectacular things that for a tight end, right? Then super deep targets and super athletic for those. So the athleticism typically goes down after an ACL, and a bigger guy is even harder for him to heal from such a thing. And then with the changing of offense, so he might be a superstar. He might be a disappointment. I think he's kind of risky. I would always wait a long time before I would pick him. Somebody else would probably take him before me. And they've got risk in that, where he's way more risky than Tyler Warren. Although Tyler Warren is much earlier draft pick, where Kraft is like 8 or something like that. Yeah. There's guys around 8 that I would rather take versus Kraft.
Let me do this. Let me do this, Don. I want to do a would you rather. You tell me which of these tight ends you'd rather draft this year at this moment. Tucker Kraft or Sam Laporta?
Oh, I probably yeah, good question. I'd probably go Kraft. I'm kind of down on Laporta because he doesn't seem to get the ball.
And he's got the back thing too. The back thing concerns me.
Yeah.
Tucker Kraft or Kyle Pitts?
Oh, Pitts.
Tucker Kraft or Oronde Gadsden?
I'd probably go Oronde.
There's some upside there. This is a fun one. Tucker Kraft or George Kittle, who's recovering from that torn Achilles?
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably would go Kraft because I just think the Achilles is so hard. There are people that have came back from it, but they are rare, and he's old, 35 or something.
Yeah, he's not young anymore. Tucker Kraft.
May I have Kittle and Tonga Spalky? Okay, if I have them both.
You're talking about soaking 2 draft picks now versus Tucker.
Yeah. Well,
Let me ask you this, Don. Tucker Kraft or the healthy Isaiah Likely, now a New York Giant? Which one would you rather have?
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably go with Kraft. See, I don't know how well Jackson Dart's going to throw it to a tight end.
Yeah.
I don't know if he loves doing that or not. If I knew he loved doing it, then Isaiah Likely's a spectacular pick. But I don't know. See, Jackson Dart just hogs the ball. He just wants to run it.
He just wants
half
to run
the time whenever there's nothing to throw to. So he doesn't support wide receivers or even tight ends so well by throwing it.
Don, imagine Likely as a slot receiver. Does that change your idea?
That doesn't change my thought, but yeah, that's what he is.
I love this. I love this.
Now maybe he goes and does like what Wandale did, but he's just bigger. Now that if he does that, then Likely he'll be the top 3 guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll do what Wandale did.
I got a question coming up for you, and I think only you can answer it. I think some of our guests, including the co-host, would leave us baffled. But I think you can handle it. You have a way about you. You have going back to my Gilligan Island days of my youth. You have a skipper-like appearance and good nature with the professorial intellect, and and do you know what that would have resulted in for that show?
Yeah, so but like Ginger probably would have came back home with me.
I'm thinking that you would have captured the affection of both Ginger and Marianne, and you would not have to play this either or game with Balky. I think you would have captured both of them. But here's the kind of either or going around the block. A.J. Brown moves on from Philadelphia. We're assuming, what happens when you assume, but we're going to do it anyway. So how close will Devontae Smith become to being the receiver that we all have hoped he can be? And if he does become that receiver, are we looking at a Jackson Smith and Jigma kind of repeat of 2025? Is the ceiling that high for the Philadelphia receiver Smith?
And
in my opinion, no way.
The reason sorry to interrupt that. The reason we bring that up is because we saw reports a month or 2 ago that the Eagles, apparently the Eagles coaching staff believe that the JSN 2025 season, that is in the cards for Devontae Smith this year if they move on from A.J. Brown, which it seems like they're going to.
You think those coaches are smoking something over in Philly?
Yeah, I lived in Philly for 4 years, and they do have their own opinions.
Did you ever meet Turp up there? He has his own opinions too.
But anyway, the Eagles are they might get back to be more of a running team, and then maybe more of a Saquon team, and so they can't center around like what they did with JSN with Seattle. He's like the guy. They threw it to him like 60% of the time or some ridiculous amount of times. Devontae Smith will never have that kind of target share, I don't think, right? And the Eagles don't throw it that much. They don't need to. When they were playing good, they didn't need to. So they can't approach that. Devontae Smith is probably a guy I won't get because the other people will hype him way up like a number 15 or 10 or something like that. And I'll never pay that much for him. So I don't think he's a good receiver, but he'll be number 15 or 20 and people will be paying like a 10 for him.
Yeah. And people like Steve G just posted from the Fantasy Sopranos. He's a big believer. And Steve G's a hell of a fantasy player. So, that's what would you call him, Balky? Would this Devontae Smith be a polarizing player?
I don't think he's polarizing yet because his ADP is still down. But I will say this. If A.J. Brown gets moved and all of a sudden Devonta Smith's ADP moves up a round and a half, we will find out who the Devonta Smith truthers are out there because they will be picking him much higher than some of the people who are not necessarily Devonta Smith doubters, but bringing up some of the stuff that Don brought up, the fact that they could be getting back to more of a stronger running game, a stronger running team this season. I brought this up on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown last night with Wilson Moy. They did pay Hollywood Brown. They did trade for and extend Dontavian Wicks. Well, I do think those are more reflections of the wide receiver market as a whole in the NFL. I do think we have to recognize that. They went out and they drafted the Bolitnikoff winner in the first round of the NFL draft this year, and they followed that up in the second round by drafting the John Mackey Award winner with Eli Stower. So this could be more of a diverse, not necessarily a concentrated pat. And I think that's what it comes back to with Devontae Smith and why I don't believe he will ever hit that JSN level. There's just too many pass catchers on this team, which is what Don alluded to. There's just, you're never going to get enough concentration, even on a team that if they somehow open up the wide receiver, or if they somehow open up the passing game, I don't see that happening. I don't think the JSN season is in the cards for Devonta Smith. Let's move on, guys. I want to talk about a free agent right now, a guy who is #NotGuilty, Stephon Diggs. He is out there right now, and the strangulation thing is now behind him, at least legally speaking. Don, what do you do with a guy like Diggs if you were drafting now, knowing that this guy didn't have the worst season in the world for the AFC champion New England Patriots last year, but we can, I think, pretty confidently say his best football is behind him. But we said that about Keenan Allen for years, and how many post-prime great seasons did Keenan Allen have? What do you do with Diggs? He's not on a team right now. How do we handle him in drafts?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I love Diggs. I drafted him in just about every league I had last year. I got him in the 7th round, and it was a great value. Everybody hated him for some reason, and I just scooped him up again and again and again and played him a bunch as my worst guy on my team. So he was great. Now he's healthier, but I'm afraid that he's going to get suspended for a bunch of games by the league. So I would stay away from him myself. And he's not on a team. I think there's going to be suspended some of the time. So I would stay away from him if he lands in a good spot, I would consider him. But right now he hasn't landed anywhere. And I think people are going to kind of keep their hands off of him. So I would only get him right now. I don't draft right now. It's too early, but I would only pick him up in the 19th round or something like that right now because he's just he doesn't play football right now.
Right. Mm-hmm. He is going at wide receiver 59 in the Big Gorilla at the moment. That is right after Brandon Ayuk, Jalen McMillan, Omar Cooper. It is right before Juwan Jennings, Denzel Boston, and Rashid Shaheed. So I think you could make the case that among those 6 guys that I just named there, he has the most accomplished resume. I
would agree with that. Yeah. Because he looked good last year, and there were sometimes. See, Drake May doesn't spread the ball around. He spreads it around a lot. he doesn't focus on a guy. So it was tough to pick Diggs on a week that he was going to have a good week.
Yeah.
He would have random good weeks because Drake May spreads it out a lot and runs it a lot, but Diggs he looked good when they gave him the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. When he got the ball, for sure. The New England Patriots, Ferrell, ended up, as we watched this game together in Kentucky, they ended up falling to the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl. And a big part of that was one Kenneth Walker, who has moved on to Kansas City. And you want to talk about polarizing players? I don't know, Ferrell. This could be a polarizing player right now.
How sweet it is that Kenneth Walker is getting his due. Super Bowl MVP, fellas. Kenneth Walker. We may not know where Diggs is going, but can you think of a sweeter landing spot for the Super Bowl MVP than the Kansas City Chiefs? I like what it does for the players around him. I like what it does for Mahomes. Mahomes hasn't had a go-to running back for quite a while. They keep unearthing backup retired veterans backs to come in, and Kareem Hunt did work. I like Pacheco, who has moved on, but I really like what this player can do for the team. We always saw this team in this past season, not a good year for the Chiefs. We saw them in down and distance situations. Mahomes is a big value in the drafts. Balky, what's Darren got to say about where he's being drafted in the Big Gorilla? I mean, it's double digits for one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league right now. And you take, General Manager Brett Veach, that gives a little bit of a tip of the hat. He says this guy's underrated receiver skills. And by damn it, Don, I was the first one on this show, and everybody gave me that raised eyebrow. I said that this Walker has the same talent of the New York Jets running back when they were drafted, Breece Hall. And people just laughed at me. Now they're close. Which one's getting drafted before Hall? Still going before Walker? Or we're getting close. We're bridging that gap, right?
Walker is ahead of Breece Hall.
What do you think about that, Don? Walker is ahead of Breece Hall.
Walker is running back 12. Breece Hall running back 15. Walker going on average at the 209, and then Breece Hall at the 307. So about a round of difference between those two running backs.
Don, see, I go down memory lane when I get something right. So I just wanted to relive that a little bit. What do you think? Is all of this stuff is 209 not warranted for this player, or do you believe like me that you can't draft this player high enough?
I think 209 is about right for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Seahawks fan, so I've watched him I watched him every single time he played. He's good. He always seemed to be kind of hurt, and it just kept happening again and again. Last year he had this big run because Charbonnet was out, and they fed him the ball. And he didn't get hurt. He's a spectacular athlete. I saw him break a tackle using his head and jump up onto his feet using only his head. He's spectacular. But when they go take and pound the ball with him, he'll just get dinged up again. So he's worth it because when he's playing, he's going to be great. And then he's going to be on the bench. And then you got to have somebody else to replace him for a few weeks. Breece Hall doesn't seem to have that kind of injury stuff going on. So I would probably tend towards Breece a little more than K9. But I still think K9 is a good pick. I just wouldn't count on him for 16 games.
No, Don, you'll be surprised to know that here in Kentucky, we actually draft for the upcoming year on Super Bowl weekend. And wow, here, Steve G of the Fantasy Sopranos says he got Walker in the 4th round, meaning that you can go pan him for gold here in Kentucky on Super Bowl weekend and get guys like Walker in the 4th round. Just saying. Just saying, Don.
Listen, Don, if you come to Kentucky in January or February, I guess it would be rule next year, you and I will have a long conversation about drafting fantasy football leagues and drafting fantasy football teams that early and how much fun it is, and watch the Super Bowl together. It'll be a blast. Before we get to that, we have to have you answer some of these viewer emails that we've gotten in specifically for you tonight. And I want to kick things off here with Ron in Plantation, Florida's email. And he writes, do you believe this is a Kyron Williams year or a Blake Corum this year? Blake Corum year, this campaign in 2026. That is Ron in Plantation, Florida. Don, how do you feel about Kyron Williams and Blake Corum right now in how we have to handle them in fantasy leagues?
Yeah, I think Kyron still has the 60 and the 60-40 split. It was a little more than that last year, but they'll give Corum the ball a little more. McVay tends to stick with his guy, right? So he's going to keep sticking with him. So I would go still with – I wouldn't go with Corum. A lot of people last year thought Corum was going to take over the job. I still don't think he's going to take over the job.
The as Ferrell would say, the Gorilla ADP on these guys right now in that Los Angeles Rams backfield, if I bring it up right now, I can tell you that Kyron Williams obviously still going ahead of Blake Corum, but it is tighter. Still not that tight, but it's tighter. Kyron Williams running back 16 at the 310 on average. Blake Corum running back 37 at the 902 on average. So you're looking at about 5 rounds, just over maybe 5.5 rounds of difference between those two. Don, knowing that, does
it kind
that
of makes Corum a really good handcuff?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you.
Because he could jump to being just as productive if the guy goes down. So there's that.
I think that a lot of times people are just going to be like, well, I'll take the cheaper guy. And it's not really a case of that with Los Angeles yet. I mean, Kyron Williams is still the man. But that obviously that could change as we get closer to draft season. We might get some little nuggets on that. And we, I can't remember who. I think it might have been Pat Corain from Legendary Upside. I can't remember. But he brought up like these Shanahan, these McVay, those guys. They talk about getting, wanting to balance and not putting too much on one player in this backfield. And it's seemingly every single year all they do is just pile on with that.
That's right.
That top
That's
running
right.
back. So that could happen again with Kyron Williams this year as well. One more email here for you, Don, and it is from Larry in Naperville, Illinois. Love Naperville.
Yes, great place.
Yes, fantastic. Larry writes, Don, are you a believer or are you out on Marvin Harrison Jr.? Marvin Harrison Jr. in Big Gorilla drafts right now at the moment. He has plummeted all the way down to wide receiver 31 at the 6'11". It was not that long ago that this dude was the 101, the 102 in FFPC rookie drafts. And now, 2 years later, you can get him outside the top 30 receivers in the Big Gorilla draft. Is that something that you want to be in business with this year, Don, or are you still passing on Marvin Harrison?
No, I'm passing on. Even at 31, I'm passing on him. The quarterback wasn't throwing it to him last year. So that it just I'm out on him. I think he'd be better off on another team. I think he's super talented, but Brissett doesn't throw it to him. Brissett throws to the other two guys. Wilson, I'm in on Wilson because I can get him cheaper than that, and he did better. And then I'm big on McBride. Of course, everybody is. McBride's a first-round guy. So if you can get him, take him, but not Marvin Harrison.
I will say this, and I brought this up on the High Stakes Lowdown last night. And, Don, I want to get your thoughts on this. Brissett was unbelievable last year with the amount of fantasy points that he was able to pile up with guys like McBride, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison to an extent, I guess, but the first two, McBride and Wilson, were the big cogs. Let me throw this at you. This could be a season where the Cardinals are punting on the year, right? Where I know they drafted Carson back in the 3rd round. They probably want to see what they have on him, in him. But next year, the quarterback first round should be fairly rich. And I know we've said this the last couple of years and it hasn't really panned out, but next year could be the year. I'm getting away from the point. The problem I have with the Cardinals, Harrison included here, I worry about what would happen to this team if they're 2-4 heading into Halloween. And they know that they're out of it, given how tough the division they're in. with the Rams and the Seahawks, with the two teams in the NFC Championship last year, the San Francisco 49ers, who had double-digit wins. And then, I mean, what's the reason why they would not give Carson Beck the opportunity to see what he can do? And that could be disastrous for McBride, for Wilson, for Harrison, and all these other, Jeremiah Love, what have you. That's my hang up with the Cardinals right now and drafting them. I want to get your input on how you look at it as it stands right now, knowing that, yeah, it's awesome with Brissett starting, but that might not be a thing that we see all season long. You mentioned you're out on Harrison. Are you and you're very positive about Wilson and McBride. When you consider that aspect as well, are those still players that you want to be drafting this year?
No, you just now shook my world. I had never really considered that, but you may well be right, because their division is a minefield, right? So they will be 2-4, 2-7, right? They will be that. And yeah, if they go put in Beck to see what he does, it ruins all of them. It could ruin all of them. That's
I think that tight end might be quarterback proof, guys. I think he's quarterback proof.
Could be the issue with that, Ferrell, though, is when you think about McBride being quarterback proof, think about how, and I know touchdowns are not sticky, so maybe this isn't a very strong argument, but I'm going to say it anyway. This dude did not catch touchdowns at all through college, through the pros, and then last year when Brissett was throwing, and until his shoulder felt like my shoulder after disc golfing, like Ferrell. That's how his shoulder felt at the end of every Cardinals game, because he was throwing it 50, 60 times a game. I wonder if we get to more of a normal offense in Arizona this year, if we see McBride's touchdown total come down. He was unbelievable. FFPC players still believe in him, obviously, as a slam dunk first-round pick. My thoughts on McBride, and certainly he could have a big season this year. But I'm telling you, I don't know if I'm right about this or not, but I will say, as far as the Mount Rushmore of offenses to watch in 2026 go, the Cardinals are right up there, because I don't know how it's going to go.
Fair enough. I'll take that.
Ferrell, you will take that, and you will give the final question to one Don O'Connell tonight, right now.
Oh, Don, I'll tell you what, they're going to love you in Kentucky. And when you're going to get here, we're going to expect you to take a stand. And you haven't drafted much, or you haven't drafted any this year, which makes it fantastic. We wanted to have somebody that came on that wasn't biased about all the drafts he's been doing. And I think you've done a great job tonight. So tell everyone that's drafted this player, the player they shouldn't have drafted, tell them who it is, and then tell them who the player is that you're going to target in every single draft this year.
I did extra credit on this one.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you a few. So I'm not drafting Allen, the quarterback Allen or Lamar.
Yep.
I'm not drafting Love or Henry. I'm not drafting Jefferson.
Yeah, that's Derrick Henry.
That's
Henry of the Baltimore Ravens.
And Jeremiah Love for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah Love for the Cardinals. I'm not drafting Travion. He doesn't even have the job. I'm not drafting Kelsey or Andrews. Those are the guys I'm not drafting. And it's not because they're not any good. It's just that they're too expensive, and I don't think they're going to be worth where they go. And then with quarterbacks, it's different, though. With me, Allen is worth it, but I don't like single quarterback teams, because then I have to start that guy. I can never not start him.
Yeah.
So
you can never make a decision. You can never play either or with Balky. You want to play that either.
Well, no, but I mean, there is something to be said for that, because not only if you are drafting Josh Allen that high, you really don't have the opportunity to manipulate that position every week, but you're also soaking some serious draft capital in. Whereas Don, like, I think you and I are of one mind on how we treat quarterbacks in single quarterback leagues. I'm much more likely, after the top 11 or 12 guys are off the board, I'll go bang, bang. Quarterback, and then try to play matchups. Yeah, sometimes I'll get it wrong, but I feel like most of the time I'll get it right. And I think that is a better expenditure on draft capital at that position than drafting Allen early on.
Yeah, you're right. We think about that the same. And then there was a time about 6 or 7 years ago where I had Josh Allen, And it was like the first week of the playoffs or the last week of the season, and they were playing like New England, and it was a blizzard, and all he had to do was get 7 fantasy points, and he couldn't do it because the weather was so bad that he couldn't do it. 7 points. So I just said, I put myself in that position. The best quarterback in the league, and he couldn't do 7 because of weather. So don't put yourself in that position.
Don's holding a grudge on quarterback out.
Well, yeah. So then the guys I will draft, all over the place. We already you named them already. That's funny, Eric. You did that. Dak and Purdy and Kyler. I'll have them everywhere, and Dart on occasion, right? And I'll be flip flopping between those guys everywhere. I'll have 2 of them. Chase Brown, Breece Hall. I'm going to have both those guys, and Odunze and Ibuka.
Oh, yeah.
Those are guys I'm going to have everywhere.
Do you just real quick on the Odunze thing, because it seems like a lot of people are on Luther Burden and Colson Loveland this year, myself included. But Odunze, I think a lot of people are down on him based on how he ended last season, but we forget he had the foot injury. Do you think that was a big contribution into why he did not live up to expectations last year?
I do, because I think foot injuries are super hard to heal from, and you just can't cut. You can't run. Right? I've had foot injuries before, but now I'm old and I can't run anyway. But I really think
foot injuries are what keeps you off the ladder. The missus keeping you off the ladder. And I have something for you to work on your way to Kentucky. This is Oinker Senior. We have to squeeze the Oinker to get it to respond. This comes from the team of Hicks and Christian, great fantasy players here in Kentucky and the FFPC. And I would like you to get a voice-activated Oinker designed where when I can just sort of look at him and say, squeal, he'll squeal, and I no longer have to squeeze him. So that will sell. That invention will sell here in Kentucky, and you'll pay for the trip.
The inventions that you have had over the years are impressive, even though we don't know exactly what they are. But I will say, Don, perhaps your most exquisite inventions have been all these league championships in the FFPC that you've conjured up to cash. Not only in the Big Gorilla, but the main event and the other FFPC leagues you participated in. So thankful that you got a chance to hang out with us tonight. This was a lot of fun. And I wish you good luck. Excuse me, I'm getting all verklempt and emotional talking about
it. You can use some bourbon right now.
Yeah, I could. But I'll say this, Don. Good luck in all your leagues this year. Hopefully we have you come back on in January when you're cashing that $1 million Big Gorilla or main event check. That'd be a lot of fun. Don't be a stranger. Be good. Enjoy drafting season. And thank you so much for being a part of the HSFF Hour this evening.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Take care.
Get started, Don. Jump in those drafts. That's go.
Right. Exactly. Thank you, Don. Be good. We'll talk to you again soon. That is Don O'Connell,
love that guy.
19-time FFPC league winner. Great conversation with him tonight. Yeah. So we could have gone another hour for sure with him. The rocket scientist, not the first rocket scientist we've had on this show.
No, he had some rocket scientists.
But great stuff from him. Ferrell, I will tell everybody this, a cautionary tale. I'm in the KFFSC Jack Tatum $100 Sweet 16. Is that what it is? Sweet 16?
Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship.
And you know what I forgot, Ferrell? I forgot it was Best Ball. So
my goodness. So
I am scrambling right now. We're in round 22, I think. And I'm collecting kickers. I'm collecting defenses. I love the team, and I think I could still make this work, even though I forgot about it. But let me tell you, what a rush it is trying to figure this out because I'm an idiot and I didn't check it out harder. But you know what's smart is I joined the Vontae Mack division in this championship, and Todd Aaron, who is going to be our guest on Extra Reps on Friday, is in that league with me as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I'll be able to pick his brain on it. And there's still room in that Vontae Mack League. You can sign up for that. The KFFSC main events, the KFFSC Draft Masters. There's some auctions on there as well. KFFSC.com is where to go. This was a lot of fun, Ferrell. Let's do this again on Friday. We will talk then. Be good and enjoy your Wednesday.
See you Friday, brother.
You got it. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. I want to thank him, Don O'Connell, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. We will be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. 10 p.m. Eastern time. Why do I say 9? We will be back at 10 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday night with the 34-time FFPC League champion, Stuart Keene. Stuart will make his return to the HSFF Hour. We're very excited about that. That's coming up next Wednesday. In case you missed the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown last night, 2023 Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament, $25,000 champ Wilson Moy joined me. That was a lot of fun. Wilson is such a good guy. And a really sharp fantasy player. So got to pick his brain on a bunch of stuff last night. You can watch that on any of the FFPC socials or anywhere you get podcasts. I believe if it's not up yet, it will be on the RotoViz podcast feed shortly. Insider access coming up tomorrow night on the FFPC socials as well as the FFPC YouTube. This is going to be fun. Fantasy Points senior film analyst Steve O'Rourke. And if you know, maybe you don't know Steve, but Steve is the guy that Brett Whitefield, and you probably know Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Points. Brett calls Steve his protege. So we are getting like next level film analysis, which is going to be a lot of fun from Steve O'Rourke. That is coming up tomorrow night, 7 till 9 p.m. Eastern time on FFPC Insider Access. And then, of course, I just alluded to it. Friday night, 10 p.m., we'll be joined by Todd Aaron, the 40-time FFPC League champion, and we'll talk rookies with him, Emmett Johnson, Malachi Fields we'll get into. We'll also talk Tampa running game and Jaden Higgins in Houston. What does he make of him? That is coming up Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Big Gorilla, Baby Gorilla, live right now, myffpc.com. Check that out. $1 million and $100,000 grand prize respectively there. The Best Ball Tournament up from $300K for the grand prize, now at $400K. No excuse not to join. Join now, myffpc.com. The Superflex Best Ball Tournament, $100K grand prize, $35 to enter. We still have Dynasty Startups and Empire Dynasty Startups going on right now, anywhere from $100 all the way up to $5,000 for those entry fees. So if you want to play fantasy football year-round, you can do that there. The main event, Early Bird, is on. You got about 3.5 weeks to cash in on that. $200 off your first team, $600 off each additional team, and you're entered in the FFPC Pros versus Joe's drawing, where you can compete against the best industry players out there, and we'll broadcast those shows or stream those shows live on the FFPC YouTube channel. Chop Leagues now available. The guillotine format has hit the FFPC. $35 is where those start up, and they go up from there, and you can win free entries in the Big Gorilla and the FFPC main event. All that available and more at myffpc.com. Remember to like, subscribe, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be the next time, 7 o'clock p.m. tomorrow night, FFPC Insider Access with myself and Fantasy Points Steve O'Rourke. As our friend Vince Staffolino reminds us, you are officially over the hump now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I just want to let you know, too, real quick, that the drafts, that especially the slow drafts, but some of the live ones as well, I don't, I think like it's May 6th and not a lot of stuff is filling. And that's true for the most part, but I will say the uptick in player support, and thank you, FFPC players, we have seen more live drafts and more slow drafts filling faster this year. The Big Gorilla has seen a huge surge. I don't know if that's early Rampage, or whatever. But trust me, if you want to get in some early live drafts for high stakes fantasy football, myffpc.com is where to go, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that you won't be waiting long. You'll be having a lot of fun drafting with the FFPC this year. Be good, everybody. We'll talk with you again on this channel tomorrow night at 7 p.m. On Thursday with Steve O'Rourke. And this show will be live again, Extra Reps, 10 p.m. Friday. And then we'll have the live show at 10 p.m. next Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Talk with you soon.